Welcome to Hard Talk. I'm Stephen Sackur. Europe is still scrambling to find an effective response to the migration challenge, and every day the problem gets bigger. Germany is now said to be preparing to receive up to 1.5 million asylum seekers this year. And while the Germans build reception centres, other EU governments focus on razor wire fences and gunboats on the Med. Well, my guest is at the centre of the storm, the EU Commissioner for Migration and Home Affairs, Dimitris Avramopoulos. What comes first, humanity or security? Dimitris Avramopoulos, welcome to Hard Talk.
The pleasure all mine to be with you, Stephen. Thank you.
Let's start with the scale of the migration challenge. We know that over 500,000 migrants and refugees have entered the EU from the Mediterranean this year already. Is the flow increasing or decreasing right now?
For the moment it's decreasing, but it will not stop increasing. First of all, it's about 650,000 people that have already submitted their applications for asylum. But as you know, it's not all the refugees, it's also the other part, the regular migrants. Most of them, they come through Italy. The political refugees, the ones who ask and apply for asylum, they come through Greece. But the number is very, very big. And I can tell you from the very beginning that Europe was caught by surprise. But finally, I believe at the end we shall manage the situation.
Yeah, well, that's the key to this, isn't it? Surprise smacks of a Europe that didn't see this coming, that was deeply complacent. We had known for years that, certainly since the Syria war started, that there was this looming problem of people desperate to reach Europe. Europe ignored the problem for far too long.
Even before. I'll tell you from my own experience as mayor of Athens. About 20 years ago, we had the very first waves of immigrants coming to Europe. And even my country was also caught by surprise. Before the life of this commission, there was sort of a fragmented policy. But from the very beginning of the life of this commission, we took the lead. And in a period of 6 months' time, we adopted, presented, and the Parliament supported us very much, the common European agenda on migration. Well, but yes, I agree with you, it was
late. We'll talk about that, but when we're talking about the scale of the problem, winter is coming. Donald Tusk, the president of the EU Council, says that the greatest tide of migrants and refugees is yet to come. He said that just a few days ago. So bottom line is, after all the complacency, are you now capable of dealing with the humanitarian challenge that is going to get worse as winter comes on?
This is our priority for Europe, but we shouldn't ignore the role that member states should play on that. We have given the guidelines. We provide all member states with our support and our help in order to face the situation. I fully agree with what you said before and with what President Tusk said, that the situation might get worse.
But individual member states are not ready. I mean, your own country, Greece, is still not providing the reception facilities on the islands that are necessary to deal with the thousands that are coming across from Turkey every day.
And not only Greece, many other countries.
No, but let's focus on Greece, because that is where actually a lot of the problem has been. And the Greek government, according to the UNHCR, is still shamefully ill-equipped to deal with the numbers that they know are coming, but they haven't prepared for.
Well, I'm not here to talk on behalf of the Greek government. I'm a European Commissioner, but I can tell you from my own experience and following the situation on the ground. First of all, let's say once again that Greece, yes, in the beginning was not prepared, was caught by surprise. But it's a question of 1 week time, according to the assurances given to us by the Greek government, that the hotspots will be put in place by the end of this month.
Why would you believe the assurances given by a Greek government that has failed signally over the last few weeks and months?
As I said, the system was not prepared to welcome this influx of refugees. Let me tell you something, Stephen. It was very easy for the Greek government, the Greek authorities to intercept this influx. But they are not enemies, they are human beings. You know very well that beyond what we see every day on the television, how thousands of lives have been rescued thanks to the operation Poseidon that works right now and operates in the Aegean Sea. The same Triton from the Italian side. But it is true what you said. The beginning was not very successful. Now I believe that by the end of this week everything will be put in place and the authorities there will start delivering according not only to the commitments they have given, but to the fact that they must do their job in the name of our policy and of the instructions we have given to the Greek authorities.
But the bottom line is Greece has a coastline, I think if you count it all up, of something like 14,000 kilometers. Now,
16.5.
Is it really? Well, the East European leaders, and I've just been in Budapest talking to the government there, they have no faith in Greece's ability to secure its own external border, and they now demand that the EU, in a coordinated fashion, takes over from Greece in safeguarding Greece's external border.
Well, finger pointing and blame game does not lead anywhere. And this is what I'm telling, visiting all these countries.
But Europe needs secure borders, you accept that?
No doubt about it. And
but it doesn't have them?
It doesn't have for the moment.
So how long are countries like Hungary and Slovakia and Croatia, which have a migration problem at home today, how long are they supposed to wait while Greece, for example, gets its act together?
Yes, it is not only Greece, it is also other countries in the region. But let me tell you something. The countries you mentioned before are not frontline countries. Hungary refused their proposal to be qualified as a frontline country in order to be helped, to be supported by us. But as I told you before, this blame game does not lead anywhere. We are not here to defend the one or the other country, but to defend and promote the European migration policy. I believe that after what we have experienced throughout the last months, we are in the beginning of managing the situation on the ground. That's why I intend to visit again Greece, all along with the President of the Council of Ministers of Home Affairs, Asselborn, within the next days, and other countries as well.
You talk to me about finding a coherent, united EU policy on this. We have the Germans building reception centres as quickly as possible because it now seems they're expecting 1 million, maybe even 1.5 million asylum seekers this year. Just down the road, we have the Hungarians and the Croats building fences, razor wire fences, putting up new borders. Far from being united and coherent, Europe's policy is still a total mess.
Well, it is not a mess, but I believe that the situation can be manageable very soon. Let me say some words about Germany. I was in Germany recently, and I want to commend Germany for the stance the German government adopted. Opening the doors to refugees mainly. I visited also some reception centers, very well set up. I visited also Hungary some days before. I am in contact with the Hungarian authorities. But as far as the frictions between Croatia and Hungary are concerned, I come back to what I said before. I mean, we cannot move ahead by blaming each other. The European...
You say that, and at the same time, the blame game continues. The Hungarians just the other day talked about a moral imperialism coming from Berlin. The idea being that we know Germany, for demographic reasons, needs hundreds of thousands of new immigrants, new workers, while at the same time, Hungary says it's just acting as a magnet, which gives them a massive headache as people pass through Hungary.
First of all, let me tell you that Europe will need migrants in the future. Europe is an aging continent, and in some years from now, all the people who really want to come to our union, and of course following legal ways, they will be useful to our economy, to our market, to our societies.
Have you talked to the Hungarians or the Slovaks, small countries which say they risk being overwhelmed and culturally their identity being buried by the scale of immigration that the Germans appear to regard as acceptable or even favourable?
Stephen, this is the difference between how do we perceive our policy on migration and what certain member states do. Let me tell you, and I want to be frank with you, populism is a very bad guide for our future steps. And unfortunately, a lot of populism around Europe is gaining ground during the last days because of the migration issue. So we have to stop it as soon as possible because it is detrimental to the European democracy and to their countries as well.
You are the commissioner who just a few days ago said to the leaders of Europe, you should behave more like commissioners and pay less heed to the voices of the people at home. What kind of mentality is that? It just reinforces the view of the EU Commissioner as out of touch, elitist, a Brussels machine which does not hold itself accountable to the people.
This is the difference between the commissions before and now. This is a political commission, and what I said, I repeat it now, is that we shouldn't, I mean, political leaderships should not calculate political cost, because the ones
but they are elected by people who have a right to
they are not born to be leaders. We must be frank and direct to our citizens. If we try to gain political profit by adopting this populist political verb, we do not help in order to sorting this issue.
You are Greek. Do you not recognize the risk that the way you deal with this crisis, your absolute insistence that public opinion should not be the driver of how politicians behave, in Greece itself, you risk stoking up the fires of Golden Dawn with the attitude you have?
I don't agree with you that we foster Golden Dawn's attitude and rhetorics. I'm talking now as a Greek citizen, not as a politician, because as I told you, I'm commissioner in the European Union. I'm not allowed to talk as a representative of Greeks for the moment.
It's not just about Greece, though. We can talk about Golden Dawn, we could talk about Greece. No, but we could talk about Jobbik in Hungary. We could talk about the National Front. I've just spoken to Jean-Marie Le Pen in France. The fact is that all of these different movements at the moment are gaining political traction because they say Brussels and the EU machine doesn't care about what ordinary people think, the worries they have about the scale of the migration that is coming into Europe today.
Stephen, this does not mean that they are right if they say it. And we are not afraid of criticism.
Doesn't mean they should
we
be
are motivated. We are motivated by a purpose we have put ahead. And Jean-Claude Juncker has said from the very beginning. As I said before, we are a political commission. We are determined to take bold political decisions and lead the way, as we do in the case of migration. As I told you before, there was no migration policy. Now it exists. Member states should follow us. And I can tell you something. The European Parliament was very much supportive to our initiative to adopt and implement a migration policy, because the European Parliament is a very sensitive democratic body. Now you ask me now what Golden Dawn and other extremist powers in Europe are doing. Well, let me be frank with you. If we start calculating our policy according to the populist movements, we are going to fail. We defend the democratic values of Europe, and migration policy is based on these democratic values. And I come back to the question you asked before you take your chair, whether it is about humanity or about security.
Viktor Orban is the elected leader of Hungary. He's the Prime Minister of Hungary. He says that he will not stand for his country being overwhelmed by incoming Muslims who will destroy the balance of Hungarian communities. When you hear that kind of language, what do you think?
I think the question should be asked to the Hungarian citizens.
What question?
The question you just asked me. I don't want to be involved in the domestic politics of Hungary, but as far as the question you asked me before, I think the Hungarians should answer this question.
And so elected leaders, in your opinion, are getting it wrong. What about David Cameron here in the United Kingdom, who says, of course, he has the right to opt out of the burden sharing that has been imposed on other member states, but he says on no account will he take any of the migrants and refugees who are currently in Europe. He'll take 20,000 over 5 years into the UK from camps in the region, in the Middle East region itself. What do you think of
this
that?
opt-in prerogative of the United Kingdom is respected. It's not the very first
time. But what about the deeper principle of burden sharing? When you see a country, a big, powerful economic power in Europe like the UK, saying it'll take 20,000 over 5 years, while Germany is talking about 1.5 million in a year, what do you think?
Instead of talking about burden sharing, it would be better, I think, if we talk about solidarity showing. I mean, all member states of the European Union should share the burden, as you said before, of this reality we are confronted with. And I believe that the United Kingdom shouldn't be excluded from that. As I said, this opt-in is a prerogative. But let's take another example, since you like examples.
Well, no,
Ireland.
Yes, but let's stick with the UK
Ireland.
for a moment. You're saying that there should be some mechanism to force a greater sense of burden sharing upon the United Kingdom?
Not to impose. You cannot impose anything. We said it before. I mean, the opt-in privilege of United Kingdom is respected. But what I would give as an answer to your question, I think the United Kingdom, a nation with a great tradition on migration. A large part of the population of this nation is composed by foreigners, immigrants, who have excelled in all fields, in journalism, in politics, in economics, in letters, in everywhere. I mean, this nation has the experience. Now we are all confronted as Europeans with this unprecedented situation. I believe that the United Kingdom should show also solidarity towards the other member states. And they do it. Of course, this 20,000 people is a small number.
So how would you propose the UK show this greater sense of solidarity?
It is up to the United Kingdom to show it. Believe me.
You think there's a lack of humanity in David Cameron's response?
I don't think so. I think David Cameron would like to contribute more. And the fact that the government of the United Kingdom accepted to resettle 20,000 people is a positive step forward that they have to commend it and praise.
But you'd clearly like more.
Yes.
What number do you think would be appropriate?
It's not a question of numbers, it's a question of principles.
Let's shift to a different powerful player in this effort to resolve Europe's migration crisis, and that is Turkey, a country that wants to become an EU member state, but still a very long way from that. Right now, the EU looks as though it is eager to offer hundreds of millions of euros and other sweeteners and carrots to try and persuade the Turks to better police the people smugglers and its own borders, to stop the flow of migrants to Greece and other parts of the EU. Do you think that's going to work?
As you said before, Turkey is a key player in the region. And we really want to put Turkey on board, to engage Turkey, to cooperate with us.
Why do you think Turkey hasn't cooperated? Because we all know there are people smugglers operating in the full glare of the sunlight on the coastal plains of Turkey, and nobody in Turkey is stopping them. Why has Turkey allowed this operation to continue for so long?
From the very first moment we declared the war against the smugglers, it was one of the action plans we adopted in the European Commission after the adoption of the European Agenda on Migration. And as you said, and I agree with you, Turkey is invited to play a role there. But Turkey, right now, is hosting approximately 4 million refugees. Most of them, they are Syrians who are displaced.
More than 2 million Syrians, we know.
Yes, 2 million Syrians, and also 2 millions spread around the country. Yes, smugglers are operating also from Turkey. And this is what we want to achieve.
How?
To engage Turkey in order to fight, to combat smugglers' networks in a more cohesive way together.
But Turkey says you're going to have to give them some real sweeteners here. You're going to have to liberalize the visa rules for Turks. And more than that, they say...
It has not been put on this dialogue with
that's
Turkey.
Essentially what is going on here. But more than that, the Turks say something very important. They say if you are serious in Europe, if you are serious about stopping this flow of people into your continent, you have to address the problem in Syria. You have to use your military power alongside allies, maybe the United States and the Gulf countries, to establish safe havens, humanitarian corridors, and that is the only way, ultimately, to stop the tide of people. Is Europe ready for that?
It is not the only way. It is one more way. There is no doubt that as long as this part of the Mediterranean is on fire, the influx will continue. And Turkey right now has behaved quite well as far as hosting the refugees that we mentioned before. Recently, during the summit that took place in Brussels, it was decided Turkey to be supported and helped. 1 billion euros have been already allocated and will be given to Turkey.
You're going to give them more?
It's not a question of bargaining about money.
I think you'll find the Turks think it is. They need a lot more money.
According to what I have heard so far and noticed from the mouths of very high-ranking officials, it's not a question of money. I think it is a question of a better understanding between us. Now Turkey is confronted with this problem. Turkey is behaving quite well. Turkey must be engaged and put on board in order to fight smugglers. And I believe at the end, from the moment Turkey is engaged and cooperates with us, we shall manage the situation there. And this will be very helpful also for Greece, since you mentioned it before, because this influx, this flow of refugees, mostly refugees, and only 20% of migrants, they cross Turkey, they cross Aegean Sea, and they come over to Greece.
Yeah, the flow. Let's just end by thinking security. You're not just the Commissioner for Migration, but also Home Affairs, and security is your remit as well. Tom Sanderson, a leading expert on security in the US at the CSIS think tank in Washington, D.C., says there's a real threat here. IS, Islamic State so-called, is not stupid, and they are using the flow of refugees to send people back into Europe.
I don't share this point of view. And I would advise all these...
What do you mean you don't share it? You just hope that it's not happening?
No. Let me tell you my point of view. Well, so far we didn't have any sign that this is happening. And we shouldn't link refugees and migrants with terrorists. We are monitoring the situation, no doubt about it. But do you really believe that the ones who want to operate on the European soil and proceed to all these criminal and terrorist actions would have chosen to follow these deadly journeys in order to come to Europe?
Well, I think that they are so dedicated to the cause of continuing jihad on Western soil, it is quite possible. And in fact, Gilles de Kerchove, the EU counter-terror official, has said that in the past there's been evidence of radical groups using this sort of flow of people to infiltrate.
The three incidents that I can mention now, the Thalys, for instance, the tragic events in Paris and the other ones in Brussels, they were all grown up terrorists from inside Europe. They were not migrants, they were not refugees. Just to give you three tangible examples, since we have to comment on what this specialist said.
All right.
But let me, Stephen, if we mix these issues up, then we risk to lose the main objective of our policy. We talk about migration crisis, we talk about refugees crisis. Security is top on the priority of everybody. And I can tell you that Home Affairs ministers work very closely to each other, and we have also made a step forward by adopting for the very first time a common European agenda on security in a parallel way with the European agenda on migration.
All right, well, that's an important thought. We have to end there, but Dimitris Avramopoulos, thank you so much for being on HARDtalk.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.